Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating story concept. It's an idea that asks a very simple, but also, I think, a really deep question about how we connect with each other, especially now, in this modern world.
So let's just get right into it. Is it actually possible? Can you build a full story with characters you care about, with real tension, and an ending that feels earned, all without anyone ever saying a word? That's the big challenge at the heart of what we're looking at.
And here it is. This is the entire premise, right from the source material. It's so simple, but it sets up this perfectly contained little world. We're not talking about some epic journey. Nope. It's all about a relationship, just slowly taking shape across a tiny little space.
So, a story across the way. Let's really paint a picture here. You've got two people living in their own separate city apartments. The only thing that connects them? This little bit of empty air between their balconies.
Now, what makes this concept so brilliant is that it's all told from a strict point of view. See, we, the audience, aren't just some fly on the wall watching from a distance. No, we are right there on one of those balconies looking out. We only ever see what our character sees, which makes every little glance, every tiny movement from the other side feel so much more personal, so much more immediate.
And that just perfectly captures the whole theme, doesn't it? I mean, we live in these crowded cities surrounded by people, but we can also feel pretty anonymous. This story kind of suggests that maybe real connections can start in those quiet, shared spaces, even when we think we're totally alone. Which leads us to this idea of a silent conversation. So how does this connection actually happen if nobody's talking? Well, this is where the real magic is. It's all in the tiny gestures and the quiet little routines.
You see, the whole relationship just grows bit by bit through these small, escalating moments. It might start with just a curious glance on the very first day. Then, maybe a few weeks later, they realize they're both out there watching the same sunset. By the second month, that little wave they give each other, it isn't a surprise anymore. It's something they look forward to. And then you get to a point where they're raising their morning coffee mugs in a silent toast. It's a real, deliberate moment of connection. These are the words of their unspoken language. These everyday rituals, they become shared experiences. You know, one person comes out with their coffee, and a minute later, so does the other. They're reading their books, side by side, in comfortable silence. They might even share a tiny, knowing smile when they hear a siren way off in the distance. All these little things, that's the dialogue. But you know, every story needs that turning point, that one event that comes in and completely shakes up the routine. And for these two, some big outside force is about to change everything about their silent little world.
And that's the real problem here, isn't it? They've built this whole connection with a physical barrier right in the middle of it. That gap has always been there, providing a kind of safety, a bit of distance. But what happens when that distance suddenly doesn't feel safe anymore? What happens when it feels like an obstacle?
And there it is, the big event, a citywide power outage. Suddenly, all the familiar lights, all the sounds of the city, they're just gone. And all that's left is darkness and this feeling of uncertainty.
This really shows you how dramatically everything shifts in an instant. The blackout just completely wipes away their comfortable routine and replaces it with, well, who knows what's next? That safe distance they had is gone, and instead, there's this shared vulnerability, together in the dark. And that quiet, passive observation they've been doing, it's not enough anymore. Suddenly, there's this real, urgent need for actual contact. Face to face, at last. It's such a great twist because the very thing that cut them off from the rest of the world is what's finally going to bring them together. So let's see how this silent story finally finds its voice.
Okay, so just imagine this sequence. The whole city goes dark and quiet. After months of only seeing each other from across that gap, one of them finally makes a move. They leave their apartment, they walk down the hall, and they stand right in front of the other person's door. And then, a hesitant knock breaks the silence, and the door opens.
And this is the climax of the whole thing. A single word, hello. But that one word is carrying the weight of every single shared glance, every silent toast, every little moment from the past few months. It's the perfect payoff for their entire silent conversation. And that's really the power of this idea. It proves that you absolutely can tell a complete, emotionally satisfying story with almost no dialogue at all. It's all about showing, not telling, and just trusting that we, the audience, will understand the universal language of a shared human experience. So it kind of leaves us with this final thought to chew on. You know, in our own lives, surrounded by people in our apartment buildings, in our offices, on the bus, how many other great stories, how many potential connections are just waiting to start?
If only we'd take a second to look up and notice the person right across the gap.